It's Oscar week, guys, and to celebrate that, I will be releasing 2 videos on the topic. Today's is the first one in which I'll be giving you my personal best pictures ranking from 10 to 1, with 10 movies in total, obviously, many of which were excellent. It's going to be a tough one, and some hard decisions had to be taken. But before we start with this list, as always, guys, don't forget to leave a like on this video and please do consider subscribing. Now, this year, the Academy Awards went for 10 movies in total for the Best Picture section, and quite a few pretty good movies were left out, in my opinion. These include, but are not necessarily limited to, Titan, The Last Duel, The Green Knight, Parallel Mothers, Tragedy of Macbeth, and The Lost Daughter. Those were definitely some of my favorite movies of the year. But without further ado, let's start that list with my number 10 and last place. Oh, Belfast, so hyped up by so many critics. Belfast is a semi-biographic coming-of-age story of a young boy and his experiences during the tumultuous 1960s in Belfast. To say I disliked it would be a big lie. I enjoyed pretty much every movie on this list, but one movie has to take the bottom place, and unfortunately it is Belfast. Beautifully shot and quite personal, Branagh's Belfast also has a pretty strong emotional core, with good performances by the whole main cast: Jamie Dornan, Catriona Balfe, Judi Dench and Ciarán Hinds all excelling. Whilst the dialogue between the characters was great, I felt that Branagh's interpretation of the 60s was a little too romanticized for my liking, and the movie sometimes felt a little too clean. This was definitely a crowd pleaser, though, and I would not be surprised if that pushes it all the way to the win, as much as I would disagree with that decision. The extremely divisive Don't Look Up takes the next spot. Two astronomers attempt to warn the world that a potentially planet-destroying comet is on a trajectory directly towards Earth. This is a movie that has pierced directly into the pop culture world with its allegory for climate change, at least bringing about much needed discussion. I enjoyed this one quite a bit, not only because of its powerful themes, but also because it was a side-splitting laugh and had some brilliant performances, especially by Leonardo DiCaprio, whose monologue felt extremely personal and showcased his passion for the issue of climate change. Apart from that, I thought that the movie's editing and soundtrack brought it to another level, but at the end of the day, it's the message that matters here. And seeing critics completely misunderstanding that was a reminder of why a movie like Don't Look Up was so needed this year. Regardless, compared to the rest of the list, I don't think Don't Look Up should be anywhere near this list, especially considering some of the movies snubbed by the Oscars this year. And at number 8, King Richard, the sports biographical movie starring Will Smith as Richard Williams, the father of the Williams sisters, also portrayed as an essential force behind the rise of the two tennis powerhouses. It's a strange one. I always thought it weird that the decision was taken for the movie to focus on the father rather than on Serena and Venus Williams. But here we are, and to be clear, Will Smith does give us an incredible performance in what is also, in my opinion, the best edited movie of the year, with some beautifully shot tennis scenes. However, like Belfast, I did feel that this movie was a little too clean, and I do believe there is a potentially grittier and more authentic movie possible here, which could have portrayed the real troubles that went on in the Williams family. I like this one, but definitely I did not love King Richard. The film Coda, which stands for Child of Deaf Adults, is one of the most emotional movies I have watched in the past 12 months. A remake of the French film La Famille Bélier, Coda focuses on the Rossi family, who live in Massachusetts. Our protagonist is Ruby, the only hearing member of her family, and the movie portrays her struggles at school to keep up with her family obligations, her studies, her relationship, all whilst devoting time to her real talent, which is singing. To start off, Emilia Jones is just brilliant in the movie, and her coming-of-age portrayal is really well done. She depicts an underdog, and you will be rooting for her from the start. However, I do feel that compared to the next movies, it is kind of lacking in certain elements like the editing and the cinematography, which are perfectly fine here, mind you, but just not as good as the next movies. Performance-wise, I thought that the supporting cast did a great job, with a special note for Troy Kotsur and Marley Macklin, whose portrayals of the Rossi parents were exquisite. The chemistry between the two was infectious. The humor was some of the best written humor, some of the funniest dialogue I witnessed this year. Although, talking about the writing, I do feel like Coda was also one of the most predictable movies on this list. Hence, why it is so low. But still, Coda was an emotional experience, a funny experience, and a movie I'm glad I watched this year. Next spot is taken up by Paul Thomas Anderson's 70s California romp, Licorice Pizza. A movie that is a joy to watch in the cinema, especially visually. The beautiful setting is portrayed so well, with everything from the cars, the costumes, the buildings, the hairstyles, and add to that the great feature film debuts by the two leads, Alana Haim and Cooper Hoffman, whose characters' relationships develop in such a realistic manner. Alana Haim is stunning and dominates the screen with her eye rolling and her jokes, her attitude, always feeling pitch perfect with the tone of this movie. Cooper Hoffman, on the other hand, across from her, is just as good with his incredible charisma and his likability. It's also very, very funny, and the writing here is impeccable, minus a couple of cringe jokes here and there. I really enjoyed Licorice Pizza, but I doubt it has any chance to take victory here. Oh boy, this might be my most controversial decision in the whole video. To be clear, I really liked Drive My Car, but do I think it's a masterpiece? Unfortunately, no. I don't. It might be my brain just not being able to focus for 3 hours. Although, to be fair, I did watch Batman twice at the cinema, and that movie was 3 hours long, so I don't know. Based on Haruki Murakami's short story, the movie follows protagonist Yusuke Kafuku, played by Hidetoshi Nishijima, who is directing Uncle Vanya in Hiroshima, whilst trying to recover from the death of his wife Otto. The movie is spectacular on so many levels. Visually, it is stunning, with some of the best cinematography I have seen this year. The performances, especially by our two main leads, are so good. The stoic faces hide so much grief and anguish, with both performers' eyes doing so much work here. The ending is incredible, with a beautifully shot scene. But, and there's a big but here, the movie is just way too long, and it doesn't have to be that long. Take the movie's prequel, for example, the first 40 minutes of the movie. I can honestly say that the whole prequel could have been completely removed, or at least maybe shortened to around 10 minutes. And I'm honestly telling you, we would not have missed out on much. Also, did we need to see all the acting scenes or the reading of the script? As brilliant as Drive My Car was, and yes, it was brilliant at times, especially in its portrayal of grief and loss in its two main protagonists, I feel it was a little too self-indulgent, and I think that will be its downfall at the awards. Oh man, I loved Nightmare Alley, and although I know it has the lowest percentage to win the whole thing, I must admit that I am secretly rooting for it. Guillermo del Toro's modern noir thriller starring Bradley Cooper, a carnival worker who manages to charm his way into a career as a psychic. Despite having its slow moments, and quite a weak romance development between Stan and Molly because of the writing putting all the limelight firmly on Kate Blanchett's character. Nightmare Alley is a feast for the eyes and the ears. Mind you, the soundtrack by Nathan Johnson is beautiful and haunting at the same time. And it is a true pleasure to watch. Bradley Cooper delivers the goods with an incredible performance, and I cannot believe he was not nominated for Best Actor in a leading role, with the final scene in this movie being a complete acting masterclass. Kate Blanchett is another great performer here, and she embodies the femme fatale whilst also bringing quite a lot of depth to her role. Del Toro's world building is, as always, stunning, and the movie also boasts of some of the best set design and cinematography of the year. Also, we've got, in my opinion, 40 minutes of pure masterpiece cinema at the end of this movie. Definitely an underdog I would be willing to back. Okay, so this is where it starts to get really hard. Honestly, the top three could rotate according to what mood I am in. Jane Campion's Western has been a real hit in the award season, picking up so much steam with up to 190 awards won up to the 19th of this month, and also picking up 12 nominations for the upcoming Academy Awards. The Power of the Dog is a haunting movie with an incredible performance by Benedict Cumberbatch, whom I hope gets the win for Best Actor. It is visually stunning. Campion's ability to portray the sweeping landscapes in such a unique way, bringing out the terrible loneliness in some of these characters, whilst also portraying the characters' moments so beautifully, is the reason why I loved The Power of the Dog so much. The screenplay is also incredible. This is not a movie you will be able to predict. There is no way in a million years I could have predicted and said how this movie would develop and the stories and the characters would move forward. And add to that, the way the movie deals with certain themes like masculinity, femininity, and sexuality is truly unique. This is definitely not your bog standard Western. And add to all this, probably the most shocking and powerful ending I have watched this year, and that is why The Power of the Dog takes the third spot on this list. Watching the trailer for this movie, I remember me and my girlfriend thinking that this movie would be the flop of the year. Who the hell asked for a West Side Story remake? And then slowly, the reviews started to creep in.
This was the first reaction, shock.
I had to watch it to make this list, and believe me, I had still very low expectations. What the hell? I loved West Side Story. Very few movies will manage to get me singing in one scene, then expressing shock next scene, then laughing in the next scene. What an experience. Let's be clear here. The acting is so good, but I was especially shocked by just how good Ariana DeBose was as Anita. Such an iconic role. This was honestly my personal favorite performance of the year, together with Agathe Roussel in Titan, despite her just being a supporting actress. She managed to completely dominate the screen. In every second she was there with a fiery performance, with amazing dancing and some truly incredible acting. The cinematography was also spectacular. Some of the shots here were splendid, and the set design really also helped with that. The music was obviously just as catchy as the 1961 West Side Story version, and I will be listening to that soundtrack for a very long time. And the dancing is just so vibrant and choreographed so beautifully that it's a delight. An overall great movie, and my personal surprise of the year. And yes, Steven Spielberg can direct a musical. And finally, my personal number one on the list, Dune. Yes, Dune. A true audiovisual masterpiece directed by Denis Villeneuve. It is the first of a two-part adaptation of the 1965 novel by Frank Herbert and focuses on Paul Atreides, whom together with his family are forced to relocate to the desert planet Arrakis, where trouble will soon follow them. The movie has everything. I mean, a stunning cast who all perform their roles to the best of their abilities, however big or small their roles, with Rebecca Ferguson standing out as Lady Jessica. Technically, it has outclassed pretty much anything else I have seen on screen, especially due to the movie's ability to make outlandish pieces of tech or monstrous animals seem so real. I'm looking at you, sandworms and ornithopters. Its beautiful soundtrack by Hans Zimmer is a core part of the storytelling experience, and the movie is simply astounding in its sense of scale. I praised this movie far too much in my review and in my top 10 movies list of 2021 for you to know that this would make it to the number 1 spot on this list as well. I just hope Dune gets its deserved wins at the Academy Awards, knowing full well there is little or no chance for it to win the Best Picture category, but definitely on the technical side of things, I have big expectations for Dune. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed that list, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like on this video, guys, and please do consider subscribing. Cheers, and let me know in the comment section below which movies do you think should win the Best Pictures award. Cheers, and I'll see you guys next time right here on Ad Lib Talk.